Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron Winters. I am an advisory support engineer here with Fisher Unitech. And thank you for tuning in today for Do More and Save More with DriveWorks Automation. So I thought we might start off with a quick poll. I'm going to go ahead and open that up for us right now. And the poll is, do you currently have DriveWorks in your company? So if you guys wouldn't mind responding to that poll. And hopefully it showed up on your screen so that you can either click yes or no. There we go. All right. So we have 1 responding yes so far, 9 responding no. All right, excellent. So that means the vast majority of you guys are new to DriveWorks, most likely. So let me give you a little information about myself. As I said, I'm an advisory support engineer and been using SOLIDWORKS and DriveWorks for some time. As far as certifications are concerned, these are the different categories that I've been certified in thus far. Let's talk about our agenda for today. First, we're going to be talking about what is DriveWorks. Then after that, we're going to answer the question, well, why should you use it? From there, we're going to try to answer, how does it actually operate? And then we're going to be able to see a few case studies after that about who's using it and how has it actually benefited those companies. And then we're going to round everything off with a quick demonstration of DriveWorks, not only within the SOLIDWORKS environment, but also online. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A. All right, well, let's dive right into our first question. So what is DriveWorks? Basically, DriveWorks is a configurator. So within your company, it's likely the case that you have designs that are similar from one configuration to the other, but some of the aspects of the designs are changing. Well, the purpose of DriveWorks is to help you automate that process and make new configurations. One of the neat things about DriveWorks is that you can actually use it not only on your desktop, but you can use it on your mobile and also on a tablet. So really, the main focus of DriveWorks is to automate and also connect the organization so that you can have a turnkey process all the way from quoting the product to speccing out the models to the customer even being able to receive the quote automatically. So again, the purpose of DriveWorks is for same but different designs. So if you can think of an assembly that your company is currently using that you're finding yourself having to create lots and lots of configurations for, just to change one aspect of the design, maybe one particular component in an assembly has to be a different size, or you need to swap one component for another. Essentially, again, we're talking about something that's essentially the same, but it's going to be different in some aspect. And you're going to try to save some time, or you desire to be able to save some time from having to do all the different configurations yourself. Well, that's, again, what DriveWorks is going to be able to do for you. And one of the cool things it will also allow you to do is speed up that custom configuration creation process. So if you have a customer that's trying to spec out a custom version of that particular design, you're able to make that lead time as short as possible. All right, so this is an example of what DriveWorks might look like on a tablet. And what you see over here is just a quick review as to how DriveWorks operates. And I'll run it again for us. So basically, you can start off with a design that already has one form, and then you can change the form of that design within SOLIDWORks, change the drawings automatically. And after the drawings have been created, they can be output as well as output documents such as quotation documents, cover letters that you might send to the customer, and then also bills of material. And that's just the beginning. Well, let's talk about a few things regarding DriveWorks, the company. So they've been in development since about 2001, and they are a proven design automation. And by that, we basically mean that they're going to be one of the gold standards in the industry for design automation. And one way that you can tell this is if you were to open up SOLIDWORKS right now on your desktop, whether you have standard, professional, or premium, and you go to the Evaluate tab, you're going to see DriveWorks Express. And DriveWorks Express is a very simple and free version of DriveWorks that will allow you to automate one engineer's job. It doesn't have the capability of some of the more advanced packages that you can buy, but it's going to allow you to at least get started. So they're also certified with SolidWorks as a gold partner and also with Microsoft. And they have customers all over the world. They're based out of the UK, but they have customers spanning India and China all the way over here to the United States. They're also with over 100 VARs, and they're used in a lot of different industries. And we're going to be talking about that towards the end when we get into different companies that are currently using DriveWorks and how it's benefited them. And I can personally attest to this. I deal with the folks at DriveWorks quite a bit, and it's very much a family atmosphere. I went to DriveWorks World this past March and had a fantastic time. It was about a week of intense training, and they'll do anything that they can to help you. I can't tell you the number of times I've emailed even the vice president of the company personally, and she's gotten back to me extremely quickly. And if she was held up in anything, was even quick to apologize for not being able to respond as quickly as she would have wanted to. And they're just a bunch of brilliant people and excellent to work with. Now, the investors and people that you see down here is actually an award that the company got within the UK that says that DriveWorks is one of the first-rate companies that you could work for. All right, let's talk about the technology stack. So they are, again, a best-in-class SolidWorks automation for the reasons that we already covered. And essentially, DriveWorks starts off with a form. So the goal is, again, to get a different configuration of your assembly or your part, to be able to push out things automatically, such as the 3D models and drawings and supporting documentation. And you're going to start with a form. So if any of you have ever used the custom property tab builder within SolidWorks, it's somewhat similar to that. You're able to design an input form. That input form can then be connected to variables and then and other kinds of information, and then those variables and form controls can be connected to real data within SolidWorks, whether it be a dimension or a feature. Also, you can take this form and publish it easily to the internet, which is something that we're going to see later, so that if you wanted your customers to automatically specify products, they'd be able to do that. So it's driven by a rules engine in the background. So it's a very nerdy piece of software. One of the things I like to say is that it's an extremely advanced version of Microsoft Excel that's really focused on automation. In fact, it was actually developed from Microsoft Excel as a backbone. And you're going to be doing intense math calculations, logic calculations, and taking data in and being able to spit data out. Also, you can establish a workflow for those of you that might be using product data management, the SolidWorks version in your company, you're already familiar with the fact that a document has to pass through a workflow in order for it to be finally approved. You can set up something very similar within DriveWorks. So if you have a sales organization, there are certain things about the incoming quote that they can approve. If you have your engineering organization, there are certain aspects that they're going to be able to approve. And finally, they'd be the ones most likely to go ahead and release the design so that all the models can be automatically generated. So it's configurable 3D in a browser. And by that, what I mean is you can actually open up DriveWorks in an online environment, start speccing out your product, and see the product changing in real time, and even be able to rotate and zoom to see all the changes that you've made. And again, that's something that we'll see later on in our presentation. It can have very strong integration with third-party systems. So if you have SAP, or if you have not only SAP, if you have any other kind of SQL database or some other kind of database in the background, you should be able to link that with DriveWorks, whether you want to push data into DriveWorks or you want DriveWorks to automatically add, for example, tables to SQL. It's going to be able to do that. All right, let me just do a quick check. I want to make sure that everyone can see where it says why use DriveWorks right now, because I had one person saying that they weren't able to see. Okay, thank you, Richard. Anyone having any issues seeing the slides? All right, and one more test. Does it now say why CPQ and automation for you? Excellent. All right. So why CPQ and automation? So we're trying to answer the question, why should you use DriveWorks? And the first question that we're going to be answering is, why CPQ and automation? So this is not DriveWorks specific. This is just more automation specific. And by CPQ, what we mean is configure, price, and quote. So you want customers to be able to configure your product or people internally to your organization. You want to be able to price it out automatically, and DriveWorks can handle all those calculations. And you want to be able to get a quote out to a customer. And that's really the automation process. So in general, CPQ and automation is going to help reduce the cost of custom designs. Because now what you can do is you can take those who were tasked with just doing same but different configurations and task those resources over more to new product development. And so it's going to reduce the cost of getting those custom designs and hopefully be able to take the same group of folks and put them more intensively in areas that hopefully will be generating the company more profit in the future. So you can respond quickly to sales inquiries. So imagine that you have a sales engineer out in the field. One of your products is going to be configured, and the customer wants to be able to see a quote pretty quickly along with an assembly drawing. Well, you might have to go through a multi-day process before that can occur, depending on the complexity of your design. So what DriveWorks can do is it can take a process that might take days and get down to seconds or minutes, and then you'd be able to get that quote even out automatically by email directly to the customer. It's going to enhance your product and data quality. So essentially, since you are putting in things that are standard through forms, all of those inputs are going to be prevented from having any kinds of errors. And within DriveWorks, you can control, as an example, what the values are that are allowed to be put into a specific form control. You can use pull downs, and all of these different kinds of form controls are going to allow you to reduce errors. It's going to reduce repetitive tasks. So again, because DriveWorks is handling all of the automation in the background, that'll prevent a resource from having to be tasked for that. And again, it's going to enable new product innovation. So again, you could take the same team of folks that was doing the configurations and now task them more towards what they're probably more passionate about, which is new product design. And more revenue per order. One of the things that you'll see in our online configurator is that you're able to give the customer immediate feedback as to the price of the assembly. And so for that reason, they're able to see exactly how much they're spending and might even upsell themselves a little bit with some of the other things that they have options for on your website. All right, so why specifically DriveWorks CPQ and automation? Well, it's going to be scalable all the way to the web. So you can start with one engineer's job with DriveWorks Express for free, or you can go all the way to DriveWorks Professional, automatically create your designs after someone has inputted the form, and then allow them to do all that specification right through the internet. Now, projects are going to be created, maintained, and owned by you. It's not a cloud solution. It's software that you're going to own, and then you're able to task people in-house to customize it to what your needs are. There's going to be local support every step of the way. Again, I'm an advisory support engineer, and I do specialize in DriveWorks, so I'm one of the people that you would likely talk to. We also do training, so if you would need specific training, and I would highly recommend it that if you were to purchase a seat of DriveWorks, that you would get the administrator training. I might be one of the people tasked to train you as well. We also are going to give you implementation support. So once you've actually had the training and you want to get started on a project, due to the complexity of DriveWorks, you might want to task us with helping you get through that first phase of your implementation. And then we can go through a handover process to be able to teach you what we've done and then release you to be able to continue configuring from there. There are new releases every year, and there's regular updates throughout the year through service packs, very similar to SolidWorks. And so that's making sure that you're getting the latest and greatest with the software. And oftentimes what will happen is they'll release a new component of the software during a service pack, and then it officially becomes part of the software in the next release. But you can actually get the benefit of using it prior to. The other benefit is if you're into APIs can oftentimes be upgraded. And so it will allow them to get the latest and greatest on the API so that if you have customizations that you've made through your API, it won't actually break down. And you're part of a family of like-minded people of over 1,000 customers. They do have a very fantastic website where you can log in and get your own portal. And in that portal, you're going to be able to log into the forum and communicate with all of the other customers who are using DriveWorks. So what are the different licenses that you can use? We've already talked about DriveWorks Express. That's going to be the free version right within SolidWorks. Again, if you have SolidWorks open right now on your desktop, you'd be able to go ahead and open that guy up, go to the Evaluate tab, and then you would see DriveWorks Express. Now, you can move to Solo to enable drawing control. So you can actually capture drawings in DriveWorks Express, with the ability to minutely control different aspects of the drawings. That's going to come more in DriveWorks Solo and Professional. You're also going to get more advanced form control and also more advanced model control. And then DriveWorks Professional, which we'll talk about later more in depth, it's more of a collective term that's going to allow even your customers online to be able to configure their products. So essentially, you're going to be able to start off with something that's free and scale it up all the way to getting it all the way out throughout your organization and even to customers online. All right, so how does DriveWorks work? Let's talk about the setup first. So what you see here is what DriveWorks looks like in a SolidWorks environment. So over here in this task pane, DriveWorks as an add-in is going to show up. And essentially what I like to explain when I'm teaching the software is that you've got to first pick out the assembly that you want to automate. And just as an aside, when you're looking to automate something, it can be very tempting to think, I just want to automate everything. Well, that's generally not going to be the best method to choose, because you could try to automate everything and the implementation can take so long that you're not actually benefiting from the automation process and actually seeing a return on your investment. Generally speaking, the DriveWorks rule of thumb that they've seen really benefit organizations is to try to automate about 30 to 40% of any given assembly or product line. And then through that automation process, you're going to get a quicker turnaround. And then as time goes by, you're going to be able to add more aspects to your design. So after you've picked the design that you want to automate, you got to figure out, well, what about it do I want to automate? Do I want to swap out a different bracket? Do I want to control the size of this bracket? It depends on whatever your engineering needs are going to be and what are the specific things that you want the end user to be able to control. So in layman's terms, you got to figure out the stuff that you want to automate. Then you got to capture some stuff that you want to control. Now the capture process is right over here. You can capture an entire assembly structure by clicking on every single component in that assembly, or you could just capture the top level. Depends on what your needs are. Some of the things that you can capture and control, and this is not a complete list, but you can capture control dimensions and features. So you can capture and control the size of particular designs, or whether or not a particular feature, as an example, is suppressed or unsuppressed. You can capture custom properties. And if you have custom properties inside your model, you're going to be able to push data in from DriveWorks into those custom properties and control aspects about your model. Like as an example, if you wanted to control the material of your model, there's a certain custom property that's specific to DriveWorks that allows you to push in the name of the material that you're looking for, and then the material automatically changes once you actually do your configuration. You can capture drawings, and you can capture various aspects about the drawings, specific dimensions, the text that is appended to those dimensions. You can capture notes and the text that goes into those notes. You can control whether or not the notes are visible or invisible. You can capture views and put them in specific positions. And that all comes specifically with DriveWorks Professional. And then you're able to control many different aspects of those drawings. If you're in an assembly environment, you can control instances. So if you're an experienced SolidWorks user, you might have multiple instances, and you know that one of the things you need to change about those instances is what particular configuration is it referencing. So if you wanted to capture that and control the configuration of a specific instance, you could do that as well. Also on the Replacement Models tab. So again, let's say that I wanted to do a quick static replacement, and by that I basically mean nothing about the size of the bracket is going to change. You could swap out a different component, and that's essentially going to do the same as a replace component if you were to right-click on any given component and then choose that from the sub-menu. And then also you can spit out various file formats. So let's say for your assembly, you wanted to spit out an eDrawings assembly. Or for your drawing, you wanted to spit out a PDF or a DWG. DriveWorks can handle that automatically for you. So I'm just going to run this, and you're going to see what the capture process looks like. So right now, what's happening is various components are being captured. Double-clicking on that bracket and capturing some dimensions. Want to be able to get the bracket width and also the bracket height, because those are items that we want to be able to control. And they're being given DriveWorks specific names and then saved into DriveWorks. And then the next step is to open up DriveWorks Administrator and then access those dimensions that we've captured. So another little training tidbit is don't try to capture everything. If you don't have to control it, don't capture it. And what you're seeing here is what DriveWorks actually looks like in the administrator project controller. So what you see here is a form. So we figured out what we want to capture. We figured out the stuff that about that particular design that we actually want to capture. And then now what we want to be able to do is create a form that will connect to those specific things that we've captured. So as you see here again, we've got a width already on this form, and now we're going to put a height. And then once those two form controls have been created, then you're able to make a decision about what are the values that you're allowed to put into those forms. So you can see here it's going to have a minimum value of 20, then a maximum value of 150. So now the end user is not able to put any values in lower than 20 and anything greater than 150. So that's a way to reduce errors. And then on the back end now, what you want to be able to do is take those form controls and connect them to the dimensions that you've captured. So this is what's called the Model Rules tab. And just to give you a general understanding of the structure within DriveWorks Administrator, it goes along with the flow that we've been talking about. So you've already figured out what you want to capture. The next thing is to be able to capture the specific aspects that you want to control, create a form that will allow you to interact with those things that you've captured, figure out any variables that you want to be able to use. So maybe you've put in a particular distance, and you want to be able to take that distance and multiply it by 5, and then you're creating a variable to control that. And then the model rules allows you to connect your variables and your form controls to actual values that will be controlled in the model. So I'll go ahead and click go here, and as you can see, we're going to open that bracket up, and you have a bracket with height. We're connecting it to the form controls that were made on that form. And so now when an end user comes and they put in a width and a height on the form, it connects directly to the dimension inside the actual model. And then when they create the configuration, those dimensions will be different based upon what's been inputted. So that's the setup. How would it run? So just in review, you've got to fill out some forms. And you might have one form that has some basic information that you want the customer to fill out. Another form that allows them through JPEGs to choose the specific material that they want. Another form that allows them, in this particular example, to choose a frame size. Another form that allows them to choose some of the orientation of the model. And a final form that gives you a readout that helps you to see all the different choices that you've made and what's the final design essentially going to be like. Now, as far as results, the end result is you want to be able to spit out some models. Also, you want to be able to allow the customer to have access to drawings, so these drawings will be automatically created if you've decided to connect them to your models. One other thing that I'll mention, if you look at these models here, is that they all have a serial number at the end, DW568. So if you have an order number that's inputted, and you want that order number to be appended onto the file name, you can do that. If you want the files to be stored in a very specific location, you can do that as well, so that you have a specification folder where with every single run of a new configuration, the specification folder is named appropriately. So let's say you have specification folder 1 and then specification folder 2. They each correspond to a specific run of that project that you've done. And then you can have that 1 and 2, or in this case, DW568, appended to the end of the file name so that you know what run these particular models came from. Also, you can spit out various file formats. So you've got PDFs that can be outputted. You have e-drawings assemblies that you can output, and various other file formats as well. Also, there are supporting documents that you can also output. So whether it be a cover letter that you want the customer to see automatically by email, or a BOM that lets them know all the different things that are part of the design, or a quotation document that allows them to see a breakdown of the cost. those can automatically be sent out by email as well. All right, let's talk about DriveWorks Professional. So DriveWorks Professional is a collective term. So it's not just one piece of software, but it's really a collection of softwares that can be used concurrently. So the first part will be DriveWorks Administrator. And you got to have SolidWorks if you're going to be using this to be able to control your models. But DriveWorks Administrator actually can go beyond just SolidWorks. If you wanted to automate your office tasks and automatically send out documentation to folks, or have people input certain things that automatically update Microsoft Word documents or Excel documents, it can do that as well. If you're using a PDM solution from SolidWorks, you might already know that you can take inputs from data cards and have them push in to various kinds of documents, whether it be a draft site document or a Word document or a PowerPoint document. They all have an add-in that allows them to take inputs from PDM directly into those documents. Well, DriveWorks is very similar. Also, there's DriveWorks Autopilot. DriveWorks Autopilot is the piece of software that gets linked up with DriveWorks Professional that allows you to automatically generate your models. Without Autopilot, you have to open up SolidWorks in order to be able to generate your models. So DriveWorks Live, that lets you use it in an online environment, as you can see over in this part of the slide. So if you want a customer to spec out their designs right through a web browser, DriveWorks Live is going to be that solution that allows you to do that. And DriveWorks User, that's going to allow your project to be exported internally within your organization. So if you have various users within that you don't want to have access to the project variables themselves, you don't want them to be able to change all the different aspects of the background configuration, whether it be the forms or the rules that you've created. DriveWorks User just allows them to create a specification and then spec out the configuration that they're looking for without that administrative control. So this is another graphic that kind of just gives you a sense as to how everything connects. If you want to have a multi-user environment, you definitely can, and you can do that via DriveWorks Pro Server. So if you have multiple users that want to be able to use the same project or the same groups at the same time, you can get a SQL backbone that will allow you to control those groups. And then when you have various users speccing out projects, be it through DriveWorks User or DriveWorks Live, then all of the different inputs that have come in can go to DriveWorks Autopilot in a queue. And depending upon a first-come, first-served process, they can automatically be generated, and then the models put in their file locations, and then documents automatically sent out by email as necessary. All right, so let's talk about some of the online resources that are available. Once you sign up for DriveWorks, you can also gain access to the online environment if you want to get training files and videos, weekly technical webinars, and the guy that you see here is Chris Cassatteri. He's one of the sales engineers at DriveWorks. He actually did the training here at Fisher Unitech for various employees for DriveWorks Professional. DriveWorks Pro Tech Tips is also available for you, and there's lots of how-tos available as well. So if you wanted to get trained in DriveWorks Solo, as an example, all you'd have to do is get an online account with DriveWorks, download the models, get a 30-day trial of DriveWorks Solo. You'd be able to get the training necessary. All right, so who's using DriveWorks? We're going to talk about first Screw Conveyor Corporation, because they're actually a project that I'm working on as we speak. They create screw conveyors, and that's just one of their product lines, but their main focus is just, in general, bulk material handling. So as an example, with the screw conveyors, if you wanted to be able to convey grain from one side of your production plant all the way to the other side of your production plant, you could spec out a screw conveyor for that process. Now you can see there's various aspects to this design, but actually they can be a lot longer than this and have multiple sections. So depending upon the size that the customer might want, you might have to have 3 standard sections and, let's say, a custom section on the end to take up the slack. Well, they wanted DriveWorks to be able to handle that process automatically. So they came to us, and we decided to help them to create a design that looks something like this. So if you were to put in a form that you wanted a screw conveyor that was 600 inches long, depending upon the size of the standard section, you might get 3 or 4 sections depending. So this guy automatically inputs not only the first section, but it will automatically input and mate the subsequent sections, and then have a custom section on the end and put in all the necessary hardware and other supporting parts in order to create the screw conveyor. And so now they've taken a process that would take a few days and taken it down to just minutes in order to create this via DriveWorks. So you can configure a new screw conveyor, you can release and generate the specification, and then you can have a complete model and assembly drawing in just minutes. And so now it's going to be a lot easier for them to get quotes out, because again, they do have sales engineers out in the field that are speccing these products out. And before, they had to tell the customer that they'd have to wait a few days before they could actually get the drawing. But now they'd be able to get that out in probably less than an hour. So in summary, how have we improved the process? So their model generation can take minutes instead of hours, and sometimes days, just for the creation of the models. And now they have their quoting process can go from 1 to 2 days down to less than an hour. Heat Sensor Technology is another company that is using DriveWorks, and they're a manufacturer of premier industrial electric resistance heaters and sensors, and they're all across the United States. They've tried to turnkey their process of creating these sensors by allowing you to configure a heater, preview the design in 3D. So in other words, they're going to have a 3D preview that allows you to rotate the model that you're specifying and even zoom in and zoom out. You can revise specifications. So once you started one, if you needed to go back and edit, you could do that. And then you can receive a drawing and a quote within minutes. And then if you place an order, it can ship out the next business day. So you can see that what they've done is they've taken their process and they've turnkeyed it so that the customer is able to spec out what they need and quickly be able to have something shipped to them the next day. So how has DriveWorks improved the process? And this is a quote. We used to spend exorbitant amounts of time collecting and confirming all the detailed information required to produce custom products. In our case, DriveWorks has aided us exponentially. Our order conversion rate is higher than manual quoting methods, and we've increased our order rate by approximately 90%. Another one would be 360 Glassware. And what they do is they make chemical synthesis equipment. But the key thing to point out is the main core of their business is actually based on their online configurator. And then another one would be Moog. So if you wanted to get a custom iPhone case, you'd be able to specify that out, and then they would 3D print it out and send it directly to you. So with Moog, you can specify various aspects, and this is what it would look like online if you were to be speccing out the product. You could choose different colors and see an automatic preview of what that color is going to look like on your phone. And then you can even upload a logo and have text on your printed phone. And all of this is handled by DriveWorks in the background. And there's lots of other case studies that you could see online if you were to log into DriveWorks as well. All right, well, let's have a brief demonstration with DriveWorks. So first, we're going to see DriveWorks in the SOLIDWORKS environment. Now, what you see here is DriveWorks used in the task pane. And this is not a 3D preview, but it does allow you to choose a different length of this conveyor, what the width is going to be, and also what the height is going to be. As far as options, I can choose whether or not I want a roller bed for my conveyor, or if I want a belt bed for my conveyor. And also, you see a little bit of animation here, but I can choose the size, the height of the side rails. Now, if I wanted to have just one side rail on the left side, I could do that. And then it gives you a simple pricing quote at the end. Now, if I click on the preview button, it'll take a minute or so, but you see that the design automatically shows up. And then it's going to start configuring it based upon my choices in the form. So now you can see it has the belt bed as I chose, and it also has that side guide rail that I've chosen as well. So that's specifying within the SOLIDWORKS environment. Well, what about the online environment? So if you use DriveWorks Online, it'll ask you to log in. So this is if you were to decide to use DriveWorks Live. I'm going to go ahead and proceed because I've already logged in. And now this is another form that's been presented to me. So this form was designed right in DriveWorks Administrator. And I'm going to go ahead and start. And I have 4 different options here. I'm going to choose a curtain-sided trailer. And now down in the bottom right, it's already giving me a price for everything that I'd like to create. I'm going to click the rotate, and now it's regenerating the model for me. Now once this guy regenerates, I can actually click and rotate the model so that as I'm configuring the product, I can see those changes real time. So I'm going to put it sideways so it's easier to see my changes, but I'm going to change the height of this guy. And you can see it automatically updates and make him longer. I'll go ahead and click next. I'll choose a different kind of wheel, try to zoom in a little bit so that you can see that. So if you keep your eyes there, I'm going to go to a steel wheel. And on the back, I'll choose to have hinged doors instead. And then here on the front, instead of a standard foot, I'll put a rocker foot. On the back here, I'm going to change to this kind of truck light. And as you notice, there is lighting within this environment. So it's one of the neat things is you can actually create a very entertaining and easy to use 3D preview so that your customers can see exactly how things will look once they've specified the product. I'll get rid of my sidebars. I'll get rid of my bumper on the back. And then now I'll change the color and choose pearl black. So at the end, it gives you a nice pricing breakdown. It allows you to put in your customer details and then gives you 3 different documents as outputs. First is a bill of material. Another one is a cover letter. And then the last one would be a quotation document. And if you set it up accordingly, you'd be able to have this quotation document or all of these documents sent automatically to the customer.